Trump's election is a sign the Messiah is imminent. So something very prophetic could very well happen in 2025 with the rebuilding of the temple.
Okay, Craig, all eyes were on the election, and then all eyes are on President Trump. But meanwhile, I love your research because you see what's going on behind the scenes that no one's looking at with the globalists. And the question is can Trump stop it? Can he stall it? I mean, that's what people are saying. Of course, some people say, oh, he's in on it. Whatever. I mean, so I really, the things that you're going to bring out to me, they're going full steam ahead. But before you answer that, I just wanted to thank everyone who's watching. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for those who joined the channel. It just keeps us going, and it's so appreciated. And the join button is below next to the subscribe. Okay, Craig, so what do you say as far as Trump? I mean, can he stall what's going on?
So the world has just met for COP29. That's the Conference of the Parties, the 29th session since 1995. And it's all in this session was all about the money. How much money the middle class will hand over. That's the private sector. They're talking from ranges of $1 trillion to all the way to $20 trillion. And they want you, the private sector, the middle class, to hand over the money now. So there's a certain amount of money they have to hand over for each year now until 2035. And all they talk about is we want lots of money and we want it immediately because of your carbon emissions. If you give us enough money, all our problems will go away, is basically what they're saying.
So so it's about taxing us?
Yeah, so there's basically 2 or 3 ways they're going about doing this, and there's the loss and damage reparation funds. This blames the weather on our modern world problems that we have. It's via lawnmowers, your leaf blowers, your weed eaters, your cars, and anything that the factories are producing. So your food processing plants, your chicken plants, and your cow farms. Therefore, you need to pay up and pay for the climate change on all these poor countries, the island nations of the world. The second way is through carbon markets, and this is basically the Republican solution that the GOP is all gathered together on to this alleged problem of climate change, which includes putting up a price on carbon dioxide. We all produce carbon dioxide, so they're going to tax. The idea is to tax everything. I'm out of breath.
Everything. Tax our breathing, right?
Yeah. So it's basically a tax on breathing. We are going to charge you for emitting your carbon dioxide. Everything you do, they'll tax, regulate, and control. Tax, regulate, and control every single human activity imaginable, and then weaponize it with a social credit score.
Like China.
And this is being propagated by the Republicans that are in office now. So okay, Trump is alone on this. He stands alone against this.
Wow, so basically against the rhinos.
Yeah. So at the COP convention, the globalists there, the deep state, is very worried over the Trump election because Trump calls the climate agenda and the Paris Climate Agreement a scam to benefit the communist Chinese. And that's probably very true. But the GOP has brought 5 of their delegation there to COP to assure the climate negotiators that they all support parts of the Biden climate agenda. So this was going on behind the scenes. The GOP is actually supporting this agenda.
Goodness,
so
okay.
Trump stands alone, at least from our point of view right now, that he stands alone against this agenda. So the GOP has changed over the last 4 years with the Biden administration. So this train wreck that's coming ahead of us, it will be very difficult to stop under Trump.
Now, you said there were 5 GOP that went, but were there any Democrats that went?
Yes, there's Democrats too. The governor of Washington State was one of them. I know he was there for a fact.
Okay, so basically both sides.
Both sides are playing the same game, but the Republicans are doing it in a different manner, but they're going down the same path.
Okay, can you say what the difference is of how they're doing it?
So it's the carbon markets. That's their philosophy rather than the loss and damage.
Okay, so what is the difference between both of those? I'm sorry, I don't really totally understand.
So the loss and damage fund is that you have to put money into these funds, trillions of dollars, to help change the weather. So they have to, for a greener economy. And then the carbon markets are the putting the price on your carbon dioxide. So you have to pay, the consumer has to pay through their product. the person behind the scenes pulling the strings was none other than King Charles. So basically, there are three COPs that occur either biannually or annually, and it's the one on climate, which we just had. You also have one on biodiversity, and we have one on desertification. And so desertification is on land use, and biodiversity that we just had COP 16 about a month ago or so, and then COP 29 is the big event. So what King Charles is calling to do is to combine these three COPs into a mega COP. So they have one mega COP every year rather than three conference of the parties. And so this will be introduced in 2025.
Okay, and will it be at the end of the year again?
It'd be at the end of the year again in Brazil
Oh,
at
that's
COP.
very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very, very interesting that he wants to combine it, end of the year and Brazil. I mean, isn't Brazil where that statue of him?
Yeah, it's a statue of him saving the world.
Okay, now, Craig, people will say, okay, they have these COP meetings, but are there really, truly any big changes that happen? Now, I have people contacting me telling me that even at their jobs, things are changing concerning like climate and what they're allowed to use and not use and do and not do. But some people are not aware. I mean, what kind of changes are they, or how are they going to force these things or enforce it? Like, let's say in the United States.
Well, from my point of view, you go to Home Depot or go to Lowe's and try to buy a gas powered blower, especially on the West Coast, or a gas powered weed eater or a gas powered lawnmower. Everything's being shifted over to battery power. And the cars is the same thing. By 2030 to 2035, they want a majority of the cars to the Tesla type of car. So it's all battery powered. And are these battery powered vehicles, whatever the machine is, are they really sustainable? And the answer is no, because once the battery dies, you have to get a brand new car or a brand new blower, brand new lawnmower. Another way is if you go certain vacation resorts. So if I go to the vacation resorts, they don't give you a large key anymore. You have this sustainable key that you put around your wrist and it gets you in and out of your room. So that's another way that they're trying to not throw away so much plastics. So it's not always a bad thing, but you can see the transition that we're having. And they'll mention at these resorts that this is a new sustainable practice. And that's the key word to watch out for.
Very good point. Yeah, and I do see that all over the place. And then, of course, this is sustainable food bugs. Uh, you
You'll
know,
see it at McDonald's. Even my local McDonald's had these big posters out for sustainability. They're no longer there, but prior to 2020, those posters were hanging. And
yeah,
then,
but I'm seeing that all over the place, even with even clothes. This is sustainable clothes.
oh
This
yeah,
is so
the clothing market too. In fact, what I'm wearing. Don't tell anybody.
right, right. But I
it's
mean, the main thing
it's
is that they want to
Giorgio.
tax
It's
us.
it's Giorgio Armani. So
Oh my
this is the
goodness.
number one sustainable clothing line. So the desertification of COP is to be held next month in Saudi Arabia. Given that the climate and nature are one independent issue, the private sector is increasingly, that's the corporations of the world, are asking if a single COP is a better way forward. This is one of the several recommendations of the SMI is making at the G20, which just happened about a week ago in Rio de Janeiro. So this is where everything began in 1992, and it's now circled around, and they're trying to enforce all this by 2025. So a lot of this 2025 talk. The issue is when it does all this stuff happen. Does it start to happen before 2025, or does it push till the end of 2025? And nobody really seems to know. But the Black Swan event is being said is Donald Trump. So that's the wild card, the joker, supposedly, that these globalists don't know. They look at Donald Trump as the Black Swan event.
Okay, wait, explain because I
So
thought
that
like
means he's destroying all the globalist plans.
I see. So to them, he's their black swan,
Yeah,
right?
to them he's the Black Swan. So the SMI knows that the multilateral bodies national governments do not simply have the trillions of dollars to go forward. So King Charles is trying to get the private sector along with the public sector to come up with the trillions of dollars needed for this transition with under 5 years to go. So that's a very interesting number they're putting up. So it's 5 years to go for this goal. So that means these things must accelerate really, really fast beginning 2025. In fact, right as of right now, the European Union are putting out these reset videos that the reset must happen now. And so all these countries, Spain, UK, France, et cetera, are putting these reset videos out in order to get people ready for this great reset that they need for the next 5 years. So the CEO of the Sustainable Markets Initiative says that their way forward to 2030 is increasingly being outdated and inefficient. So in the spring of 2025, the SMI aims to demonstrate to the world a better way to align our global assets to this task, and that is done under King Charles.
Okay, so in the spring there could be start being major changes.
There's going to be some major changes. And the number one is the world needs a single COP with a private sector at the table. So they want the private sector to take control. That's a tenocracy in the days ahead. So the merchants of the earth will mourn when they see Babylon being destroyed in 1 hour. So there we have the tenocracy ruling in the last days.
Okay, so Craig, to you, who is Babylon?
The religious political system that's Rome. So they're saying this is based out of Rome. So this is a Roman agenda. And so their Sustainable Markets Initiative is telling you it's Rome.
Okay, right. So King Charles and the Pope in on it together.
Yep, they're in on it together. And they're saying it's all controlled under Rome. So I'll bring that up later because it's going to come up again.
Okay, yeah. And you also have some other interesting things that are going to be happening in 2025, but keep on going.
So beginning in 2025, King Charles has put and the SMI have come up with a private markets decarbonization roadmap 2.0 for these companies to follow in the days ahead. So this was done at COP29. This includes their strategies to overcoming barriers, mobilizing incentives, and accelerate the adoption of effective climate solutions. Their role remains central to achieving the 2030 targets. So it's with 5 years to go. So there you have behind the scenes what was going on at year number 1 of 7 of King Charles Business and Philanthropy Forums being discussed at COP29.
Right, and there's more things that have been going on behind the scenes. Now, there's a question that I've seen, like in the comments. People were asking, and also I think I saw this on your post too. People were asking, when do you think King Charles will start to reign?
My opinion is by January 1st.
Okay, right. Huh, interesting,
But
right.
I'm not going to say that's 100%, but there's a high probability this happens by January 1st. And there's a reason for that. There's a day of peace, a World Day of Peace on January 1st. And then there's the International Day of Peace on January 19th, one day before the inauguration. But it has the same theme as January 1st. And it's Pope Francis's theme of forgive us our trespasses, grant us your peace. And he wants King Charles to be that man of peace. So Trump wants to take out Hamas and Hezbollah before January 20th. And so there's certain peace agreements or days of peace talks ahead in 2025. There's the Basel Peace Forum. It takes place January 23rd, 2025. The United Nations will undertake a comprehensive review of its peace-building architecture. The review will access the UN's work on peace building, sustaining peace, and will aim to improve in all these areas. The review will also build on developments since the 2015 PBAR, that's the Basel Peace Forum, and the 2016 dual resolutions on peace building and sustaining peace. So a lot of talk about peace, 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 peace. Then you have the Universal Hour of Peace Day, which promotes peaceful activities and a goal of a world without war. This takes place December 31st, 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. January 1st. So basically the midnight hour. They're saying this is the Universal Hour of Peace Day.
Again, I don't remember all these different peace days in January.
Yeah, me neither.
Right. So when they're saying peace, peace, I mean, this is, but meanwhile, Trump really, he wants, everything to stop with, in Israel. And of course, then, Craig, then people say, well, see, if he stops that, well, then he's the Antichrist. You're seeing the same stuff that I'm seeing. And what's your answer to that? I mean, one of my things is he's not even for any of the stuff that the globalists want to do. He's against their agenda, but you know better than I do.
So Rabbi Midrash hints that Trump will return the glory of the Western world by rebuilding the third temple. And he believes that Donald Trump is the spiritual descendant of Rome, the nation that destroyed the second temple. That's really important to note that it is Rome that destroyed the second temple, not Saudi Arabia or Assyria or Iraq. It was Rome. And the leader at that time, what we know from scripture and also from history, was Titus that destroyed the Jerusalem in 70 AD. And Titus originally ruled under Rome. He ruled from Great Britain and Germany. So his leaders came, those that were with him to destroy Jerusalem came from those two regions. So he believes that Trump is going to fix the sin of Rome by returning the glory to the Western society.
Okay, but you were explaining to me before that they don't think he's their Messiah.
No. So Trump's election, he says that Trump's election is a necessary element of the redemption and a sign of the Messiah is imminent. That is why Donald Trump in Gematria, the Hebrew numerology, adds up to 424, which is the same as Mashiach ben David, Messiah from the house of David, according to this rabbi. Rabbi Berger points out that this certainly does not mean he will be the Messiah, but it indicates that he will play a role in preparing the way for the arrival of the Messiah. And he goes on to say he clearly has this inclination. This connection was so evident in Trump's connection with Jerusalem that in 2018, the Sanhedrin minted a coin with the profile of Trump, I have that coin, superimposed over the image of the Persian king Cyrus, who facilitated the building of the second temple in Jerusalem that ended the Babylonian exile in 538 BCE. Cyrus was not Jewish. He makes it very clear that King Cyrus was not Jewish that rebuilt the temple in Jerusalem.
Okay, so and what is Trump's connection as far as any of the people that are going to be on his administration and connected with rebuilding the temple, which again, you have a very good answer when people say, well, see, if the temple ends up being rebuilt, Trump is the Antichrist. But you had a really good answer to that, because does the Antichrist have to rebuild the temple? I mean, where does it say that?
The Bible doesn't say who's going to rebuild the temple. The Bible just says what happens at the midpoint of the tribulation, that the Antichrist sets up his seat within that temple. So, and with the talk now, this thing could potentially happen if these wars progress at the speed they're progressing. Could potentially happen, a declaration by the spring of 2025. So the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, so he's a nominee. I don't know if he's been officially instated, but on building the Holy Temple, he says 1917 was a miracle. That was the Balfour Declaration. 1948 was a miracle. That was Israel reborn in a day. 1967 was a miracle. In 6 days, Israel defeated 3 Arab armies, gained territory 4 times its original size given to them in 1948, and became the preeminent military power in the region. In 2017 was a miracle. On December 6, 2017, President Trump formally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So something very prophetic could very well happen in 2025 with the rebuilding of the temple.
Right. And then also, can you go to what happened in 2018? Because I thought that comment was interesting that Pete Hegseth said.
Yeah, at a conference in Jerusalem in 2018, he goes and states there is no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. And now we have that talk once again happening right now. There's a lot of temple talk. And according to the Temple Institute, the red heifers, on their point of view, must be sacrificed in the spring and only when their Mashiach shows up. So their Mashiach has to show up in order for them to sacrifice the red heifer. And so there's one man waiting in line to go to Israel. Once there's an agreement between Palestine and Israel and the establishment of a Palestinian state, and it's none other than King Charles.
Yeah, now I find it interesting, Craig, when I was like looking at your post, how much the UK and how much King Charles basically is pushing for a two-state solution. Can you explain some of that and the background with the UK and Israel?
So the Foreign Office's position of the UK has always been that the head of state, the king or the queen in past, will not visit Israel until a final peace agreement is made with the Palestinians. That's their official position. So Israel gets penalized until there's a peace agreement. The UK Israel Strategic Partnership Memorandum of Understanding 2021, dated November 29th, was published under the 2019 to 2022 Johnson Conservative Party in the UK. The UK and Israel signed a memorandum of understanding on this day to work more closely over the next decade on cyber technology, trade, and defense. There are now 7 years left from that time. Through the roadmap, the UK elevated this relationship under the Sunak administration, and this was published under the 2022 to 2024 Conservative government of the UK for 7 years. So this was done on March 21st, 2023. So Keir Starmer has been now elected as a prime minister and has dramatically reshaped the UK's relationship with Israel. And since taking office, he had also said the UK would consider recognizing a Palestinian state as part of diplomatic efforts to create progress towards a two-state solution to end the protracted Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So this was stated also by King Charles a couple months ago, that the UK government will take the Abraham Accords and come up with this Israeli-Palestinian conflict being resolved. So Trump wants Israel to take out Hamas and Hezbollah by January 20th. And Mike Evans, the U.S. president-elect's evangelical advisor, that's for the church. So Donald Trump has an evangelical advisor, a religious advisor. Evans says that Donald Trump would like Israel to complete the job by January 20th, the elimination of Hamas and Hezbollah, an attack on Iran's oil facilities that would lead to Iran's economic collapse, and then a historic peace agreement with Saudi Arabia and the Sunni world. Trump has a clear moral vision. He sees Israel as the good and its enemies as evil, unlike Biden, who saw Israel's enemies as victims. The window of opportunity is only open until January 20th. Once Israel has completed the task, Trump will be the architect of the new era in the Middle East. This is said by the quote-unquote church that we have today.
Okay, but then, Craig, people again are going to be saying, well, see, then Trump has to be the Antichrist because he's bringing peace there.
The Antichrist confirms a covenant with many. It means that Daniel 9:27 says he strengthens that covenant already in place. For this to happen, hypothetically, we have to have a peace agreement by the end of December, and then the Antichrist steps in and strengthens a deal that's already in place. And King Charles, a few months ago, stated the way he would do that is via the Abraham Accords. How I view it is he'll take the Abraham Accords and he will hijack it before Donald Trump gets in office January 20th. So the state of Israel and the UK have enjoyed a fruitful diplomatic relationship other than in recent days because of this warrant to arrest Netanyahu. So UK stands with that warrant and says they will arrest Netanyahu if he goes to Great Britain.
Okay, wait, what's their reason?
Because the ICC has stated that there are being war crimes in Gaza. It's a very interesting play right now that I don't know how it's going to work out. So it's something to watch in the days ahead. So, but basically, you can see the two-sidedness of the UK. So I want to make that really clear. There's two sides of the UK. There's a side that supports Israel, and there's also a side that goes against Israel. And ultimately, it's that two-state solution. And we see in Scripture where the Antichrist will appear to be their friend in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, and then he breaks that covenant in the middle and turns against Israel. And so we're seeing this two-sided play within the UK today, in our day. And so I want to make that really clear that the UK is not to be trusted in regards to Israel. So there's a long history, though, between the UK and Israel, and with cooperation and agreements and signings between Israel and the UK. 2024, the new government under Starmer and on behalf of King Charles III focused on the need for immediate ceasefire and a political solution in the Middle East. Updates to a deal will be announced through the foreign, you can look this up online because they update almost daily, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development website. They also have their own page on Facebook where they update. In November 2021, the British government and the Israeli government signed the Memorandum of Understanding elevating the UK-Israeli bilateral relationship to a strategic partnership. This represented a signal of intent for both countries to cohere, deepen, and expand cooperation across our mutual priorities for our mutual benefit. So it's all about the money. So this is why this is going on, and for digitalization of markets, and also what goes in the arm. So it's also pushing that agenda. So we saw that in 2020, how Israel was the leader with that technology, and the UK and Israel are merging on that technology in the days ahead. Who's going to push this, Mark? A lot of people can argue it's the USA. I have no issue on that, but it's also Israel at the same time. So whatever is going to go in your body, well, Israel is known for their technology. So they're very smart people. So they'll figure out how to merge that technology to go, if possible, in your forehead or in your right hand.
Right, and then that's with a partnership with the UK.
With the partnership with the UK. In 2019, following the UK's departure from the European Union, Israel and the UK signed their first free trade agreement, which came into force January 1st, 2021, and replaced the Israel-EU Free Trade Agreement. The UK and Israel are in negotiations to upgrade and expand the existing FTA. In 2018, Prince Charles of Wales traveled to Israel for the first official visit of a member of the royal family. Prince Philip, 1994, and Edward, 2007, made private visits also, as did King Charles III in his capacity as prince in 1995 and 2016. In 2016, Britain became one of the first countries to formally adopt the new definition of anti-Semitism, published by the IHRA. The definition reads, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, towards Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. The UK assumed the IHRA presidency on March 1st, 2024 for 1 year. So we have this goes until March 2025. So very interesting connection there, where this could definitely fit within the confirming of a covenant.
Interesting, right. And so the IHRA stands for?
Stands for the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And there'll be more talk of that, I believe, in January 2025. So that could happen as well with King Charles, because he backs up. Actually, he went to Israel, I believe, in 2020, and did his speech in Jerusalem on behalf of the Holocaust remembrance that they have in Jerusalem. So,
Right. So it's like you said, it's like two sides to a coin. I mean, they're like for Israel, against Israel.
yep. And same with the U.S. You can see that in the U.S. between the GOP and the Democrat Party. So the Democrat Party is against Israel, and the Republican Party always votes for Israel. So you see that in our own parties. But in the UK, it's like all over the place. So you can see in their political agenda, they're playing both sides. In 2011, the British Embassy in Israel launched the UK Israel Tech Hub. And I just brought that up earlier, a non-for-profit venture to drive economic growth by helping British companies partner with cutting-edge technology from Israel. So we see this in play with the company WaterGen, for example. WaterGen is the company that has sided with King Charles in his Sustainable Markets Initiative and the Terra Carta to get water out of the air. And so they're working on behalf of King Charles in this technology to sustain the world for a better world. And the hub, the first of its kind, has been instrumental in increasing and strengthening bilateral economic ties with over 175 innovative partnerships facilitated worth more than 85 million pounds, and with no fewer than 26 companies trading on the London Stock Exchange. So the Israel UK has a strong business partnership between the two countries. In 2008, Gordon Brown became the first British Prime Minister to address Israel's parliament in Jerusalem. 1995, Queen Elizabeth received President Ezer Weizman to London. The meeting marked the first state visit of an Israel president to the UK. In 1967, Lord Caradon, Britain's representative to the UN, drafted Resolution 242, which was adopted after the Six-Day War and became the central document of the Middle East diplomatic effort. The resolution, a total of 291 words, aims to establish a just and lasting peace within the Middle East between Israel and its neighbors. Israel accepted the resolution and recognized it as the basis for all peace negotiations for an Arab-Israel peace settlement. 1950, Israel opened diplomatic relationships with the UK after the latter's formal recognition of the State of Israel in April, moving staff to the former home of novelist William Makepeace Thackeray. It officially became Israel's embassy in 1952 and has remained so ever since. 1922, we had the League of Nations, the predecessor of the UN. They met at St. James Palace, London, legally confirmed Britain as a mandatory power for Palestine and stated that the mandatory shall be responsible for placing the country under such political, administrative, and economic conditions as will secure the establishment of the Jewish national home. So we're seeing, once again, two-sidedness of Israel in our time because they've already established Israel, but they also want to establish the state of Palestine. And this is believed by many, we've talked about this before, to be the 18th SDG for peace and security for the UN.
And just for those who haven't watched before, what SDG stands for?
The SDGs stand for Sustainable Development Goals.
Right.
Agenda 2030.
Right, and we'll show on the screen, these are the 17 goals, but you don't have to read them right now. But yeah, very interesting. Repeat again what you think the 18th goal is.
The 18th goal would be the establishment of the state of Palestine.
Okay, and then 1917.
1917, we had the Balfour Declaration enshrining the British government's support for the Jewish national home. The declaration played an important role in Britain's support for and the creation of the State of Israel.
Right, so the State of Israel can thank the
Great
UK.
Britain.
Exactly, it's like the connection.
Yeah, they can't thank the U.S., but they can thank the U.S. for their support, but they can thank the U.K. for having the establishment of the State of Israel. So King Charles and Queen Camilla plan to visit the Pope in early 2025 as their next major tour. The royal is set to meet the Pope, stating that he needs to make up for lost time because of his cancer. So he believes that 2025 will be a new normal for himself, being that he has been healed of his cancer.
Ah, right, because it's just been looking like he's kind of vanished and no one knew what he was doing for a while, and now he's going to be more in, not behind the scenes, but everyone's going to be watching what he's doing. But also, it's interesting that he's meeting with the Pope, and the Pope is very much against Israel too. They think it's all Israel. The Pope thinks it's all Israel's fault.
Yeah, so Pope Francis wants a probe into the Israeli-Gaza conflict. So that's basically a slander to the state of Israel. So we have that with the UK government basically slandering Israel and wants to arrest their prime minister, and we have the Pope doing basically the same thing. So in 2017, Pope Francis presented Prince Charles then of a bronze sculpture of an olive branch in a white box and told him it was a symbol of peace. He stated, "Wherever you go, may you be a man of peace," he told Prince Charles. And Prince Charles replied, "I'll do my best." And now King Charles, in the days ahead, has this opportunity to have proven it. So we're going to, I think in the next, I don't know, we're so close to this thing happening. So as soon as there's peace declared in Israel, that's the time to really start paying attention. And that could happen as you and I are speaking because these things are moving at a very rapid pace. There's actually a book written about that's called King Charles the Wise. So it's a hypothetical book and a book a lot about mythology, but it foresees the birth of a united world through King Charles. And you can't make this up. So it states that the author of this book describes how Zeus sends Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, as an ambassador to Prince Charles in Buckingham Palace. Zeus wants a democratic world state to end all wars. So this writer believes that Zeus sees the innovative and influential UK as best placed to give this humanitarian vision global prominence and seeks the support of the future King Charles, deeming him more enduring and open-minded than all his politicians under him. So he foresees Minerva confronts Prince Charles with his conflicting perspectives of the goddesses Britannia, Europa, and Colombia, who speak for the UK, EU, and the US, and foresees a world state that will abolish war. He accepts the humanitarian concerns behind this universalist globalist vision and crowns King Charles the Wise. So, besides being king of the UK in all its faith, he will sympathize with the plight of all humankind and inspire a new world structure that will bring universal peace during this coming age. But anyway, it was written several years ago.
Okay, so that's basically then what their prediction is of what
This
King
is yeah,
Charles is going to be
this is
doing.
a UK perspective of their prediction of what King Charles will do. There's another document, I don't know if it's still up, that was on the internet that stated King Charles will be the eighth king of the revived Holy Roman Empire. That was on the web from the UK. That was on the web right after he was coronated in 2023. So this book is basically a typology of what is to come. So you can see behind the scenes what the globalists are also looking at, who is their leader, because they actually say the SMI says they look up to King Charles as the one who's going to solve all their problems. We just had the G20 in Brazil, and that's the birthplace of the Sustainable Development Agenda was in Brazil in 1992 under then Prince Charles of Wales. And the leaders, they're tackling social inclusion, hunger and poverty, sustainable development. Here we are again. All leaders are talking about the sustainable development, energy transitions and climate, and global governance institutions. So they go on to state that there will be no sustainability nor prosperity without peace. To reap the benefits of our joint efforts, we must equip the world with a reformed global governance. So here we have a new order being talked about at the G20. The G20 leaders called for a comprehensive ceasefires in both Gaza and Lebanon. So there's a lot of talk about Gaza, Lebanon, and Ukraine and Russia. So this all plays into this global order. So they go on to say where Israel is fighting respectively against Hamas and Hezbollah. So affirming the Palestinian right to self-determination, we reiterate our unwavering commitment to the vision of a two-state solution where Israel and a Palestinian state live side by side in peace, the document says. And it goes on to say the UK updates its mission to the UN. We shall make the UK more secure and prosperous by making the UN more effective and efficient at delivering peace, sustainable development, human rights, justice, and humanitarian assistance. So this is what to expect from the UK in the days ahead, that they're going to strengthen some sort of peace agreement out of this Gaza-Israeli conflict. So the UK is clear that the occupation must be brought to an end through a negotiated solution with a unified Gaza and West Bank, including East Jerusalem, in line with the 1967 lines, and agreed land swaps under the effective control of the Palestinian Authority, with Jerusalem as the shared capital of both states, and with a just, fair, agreed, and realistic settlement for refugees. Peace must be promised upon a safe and secure. There we have those terms, once again, biblical terms again, peace and safety. So we have it upon a safe and secure Israel along a viable and sovereign Palestinian state. This was dated 22nd November 2024 from the UK. So we have a major move with the UK to, like I said before, to hijack this peace agreement in the days ahead, whatever that may be. Obviously, it fits in with the Abraham Accords and the UK-Israel bilateral agreement. So those somehow that all works in with this. And the Sustainable Development Goals, that's all part of this agenda as well. So what might King Charles confirm in the days ahead? He will likely reveal in an address to the world. This will occur on December 24th and 25th, depending on where you are in the world. So, and along with Pope Francis's speech, which he'll have on the same day. So we have at this point the potential Antichrist and the potential false. We kind of know who the false prophet is. It's the false prophet's the Pope. But anyways, these two men speak on the 24th and 25th of December and will address the world. And King Charles will most likely reveal through his address his resolute solidarity with the Israeli and Ukrainian people against Iran and its proxies, and Russia's unprovoked aggression, in highlighting the existential challenge of the climate crisis, and with it make a greater covenant already in place to play his role as a sustainable king. King Charles views himself as God's replacement on earth, and you can see this through his Astra Carta seal, God's replacement and protector of all the universe, and the protector of all the earth through his Terra Carta seal. So these the two seals of the king tell you what he believes himself to be as savior of the world. He wants this for the harmony of nature, people, and planet, to care for the infinite wonders of the universe, is how it states on his his seals. So I think that's really interesting in the days ahead to see how this is going to play out. But nobody knows what that speech is until he makes that speech. There's also on Telegram, there's a high expectancy that there'll be World War III by Christmas. And if not by Christmas, within days after.
Right, right, because they want that before Trump, before the inauguration. So they want a
Yep.
World War III.
And then I'll also mention that it's been in the news that Iran, Russia, and Turkey will be meeting early in 2025 to discuss how they're going to deal with Israel. So there's no date yet given, but those three countries of Ezekiel 38 plan to be meeting to discuss their response to Israeli aggression.
Wow, so a lot of different stuff is coming together of end time
Yeah, it's
prophecy.
all coming together, but we don't know the day yet.
Now, do you think Trump can slow anything down of their agenda?
Perhaps the Paris Agreement, he'll slow it down on the U.S. side, but these guys are moving full ahead with or without Trump, and that's their full intent is to go on without Trump. So they want to destroy the U.S. economy, preferably before January 20th, and have your Black Swan event, whatever that'll be, and then Donald Trump's presidency is ruined from before he even steps in.
Right, so it's kind of making him incapacitated to really get anything done.
Yeah, to get anything done. And the Noahide laws has updated their website. They're going to move ahead with the Noahide laws under Donald Trump.
Okay, but then again, then people say that Trump is evil because of this whole Noahide laws. But I mean, he's not the one who put this in place. So can you explain it?
So the Noahide laws, according to the Talmud, the Jews are obligated to the 613 laws of the Old Testament. So they're still attempting to follow their laws, even though there's no temple today of Judaism. But they believe the Gentiles must have 7 laws. And those laws are binding on all humanity. It's to establish laws to prohibit blasphemy, to prohibit idolatry, to prohibit bloodshed, to prohibit theft, and do not eat flesh from a living animal. So all these laws on the surface look really good. But if you dig deeper, these Noahide laws regards the worship of Jesus Christ as idolatry. So these are the same laws that the Pharisees basically had established to crucify Jesus Christ. It would be used in the tribulation to kill the Christians.
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing the same thing. Right. So then they would say, right, if you don't give allegiance to the Antichrist, but you give allegiance to
So
Jesus.
basically, yes, yeah. So your allegiance will be to their Mashiach, to whoever their savior is, King Charles, for example. And then if you worship Jesus Christ, that's considered idolatry, and you're going to have to pay with your life because of that. So that's why a lot of these Christians take note of these Noahide laws, which I believe was signed under Donald Trump, and it was also introduced under Bush. So these talks have been going on for quite a while.
Okay, wait. Okay, so this is alarming because, all right, you're saying that it was signed under Trump. I'm not understanding.
So the Noahide laws were given with Donald Trump in his first Trump 1.0, so his first presidency, and he signed the document for the Noahide laws. There, and last year, on the same day, they signed the 7-year UAE agreement at COP28. The inaugural Peace Award ceremony was held for the Noahide laws at the UN on December 12th, 2023 in New York. So we have these 2 events going on at the same time. So when you see a push for a new world order, you're also going to see a push for these Noahide laws merging together at the same time.
Okay, now I'm not trying to debate, but when I have looked into it, sometimes I see that people are trying to frame Trump and say that he's behind it or that he signed it, and then others like have proof, and you're saying that there is proof. But then, okay, then the question, Craig, is Trump good or bad if he signed
But
something like this?
we don't even know if Trump read it. Trump might just be being drawn in because he's friends with the Jews and signs a document. And like I said, at its surface, it looks okay. If you dig deeper, which I can assume with the lack of time Donald Trump's going to have, he's probably hasn't dug deeper into what it really means. So he's being drawn
Okay.
in by these super religious Judaizers to impose this new law on all mankind. So in this regards, it would be specific to the U.S. Obviously, his signature means nothing for other world leaders.
Well, thank you so much for all these updates. Boy, there were a lot of updates. And Craig, how can people find you on Facebook?
On Facebook, it's Rapture Watchers in all caps, but it must say by Craig Bong, So the group is by Craig Bong. There's somebody decided to take my thing and make their own and say I'm anti-rapture, anti-Christian, and a bunch of hooey.
Okay, nope, that's not you.
That's not me. So, and then also Craig Bong on Facebook, which
Okay.
most of my stuff's on Facebook.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. After Trump's inauguration, a major end time sign will appear. Click the video to watch now so you're ready for what's coming next.